Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Chit Chat series. My name is Tatiana. Byron, I'm founder and CEO of Wedding Salon, and I am excited to be here today with my fellow guests, Tanya and Amanda. They are from a company called Effector, and Effector is, a true, incredible brand that has inspired not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of people to really think about their weight programs and think about their health and their mental health. And especially now when our couples are, and including our vendors, pretty much all of us are going through such difficult time. It really is important to think about your health and important to think about what you're putting inside your body. And it really helps you deal with the stress, in particular to our couples that are going through the process. And Amanda has actually, and we'll talk about this, has gone through this as well, keeping an Effector program. And so I'm super excited to have them join us today and help you and guide you through how you can also stay healthy, stay sane, and not add that, COVID-15 as we had started to coin. So without further ado, I'm going to have our amazing panelists introduce themselves, and we'll start with you, Tanya.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tatiana, for having us. We are so excited to be here. My name is Tanya Zuckerbrot, and I am a registered dietitian and the founder and CEO of Effector.
And I am Amanda Karp. I am the Director of Nutrition. Thank you, as well, Tatiana, for what Tanya said. We're so excited to be here. I have been at Effector for 3 years, but my journey spans 10 years since I was an intern. I went from an intern to a private practice dietitian to now the Director of Nutrition.
Wow. So tell us, and I'll direct this to you, Tanya, how did you get into this business? And tell us exactly what Effector does, so everybody knows. I know, but I just wanted to.
Effector is a fast-growing brand in the health and wellness space. We are recognized for our success with weight loss and improving people's health. Effector is a high-fiber, high-protein diet that's based on 4 disruptive principles, which is why I think people find the program so liberating. The 4 disruptive principles include: you get to eat carbs from day one, you can dine out from day one, you can enjoy cocktails from day one, and we teach you how to work out less but get better results. And while those pillars, dine out, eat carbs, enjoy cocktails, work out less, seem counterintuitive, we support them all with empirical scientific evidence that explains why those recommendations not only don't interfere with weight loss, but they actually can promote sustainable weight loss. So it is an extremely effective program and liberating program. And the weight loss that occurs, of course, is exciting and much welcomed, but it also is about improving people's health, because my background is actually clinical in nature, as Amanda's. We are all clinical registered dietitians. We all complete residencies in hospitals, and therefore we would only prescribe a weight loss program if we knew that it was honoring people's health and in fact improving their health. So you ask how I got into Effector or into becoming a registered dietitian. How did I enter this career path? In full transparency, it was a complete accident. I never intended to be a registered dietitian. I didn't even know that was a career path. I was an English major at the University of Michigan with a passion for cooking and certainly a passion for wellness. So I applied to the master's program at NYU, which was Food and Nutrition Studies, because I wanted to be a chef. And I did not understand that the master's degree was actually a clinical degree to become a registered dietitian. So when I got to NYU on that first day, I was handed a list of prerequisites, which included anatomy, physiology, inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, and biochemistry. And I held up my prereqs. I'm like, oh, no, I'm here for the courses on apples. I'm here for the courses on farming. Like, what is this? I had completely misunderstood this master's program because, like I said, I wanted to become a healthy chef, not an RD, taking all these pre-med prerequisites. The problem was my parents had already paid my tuition, so I didn't know how to get out of it. So I said, let me put my head down and see if I can get through this. And as it turned out, unbeknownst to me, because I'd never taken a science course in my life, I was fascinated by the science. And I stayed with the program, graduated, went on to complete my residency, or what we call our AP4 at New York University Hospital, where your rotations include oncology and renal and cardiovascular rotations. You're in the ICU. I mean, this is such a clinical profession. And that's what landed me in a private practice where I was prescribing high fiber diets for cardiovascular and diabetic patients, never with weight loss on my radar. And by prescribing high fiber diets solely for the clinical benefits, were all these patients losing weight. And that's when I identified that fiber didn't just have clinical benefits, but weight management properties. And that was the birth of the Effector diet.
That's amazing. And who would have thought, right, that it would be a side product of, of what you were doing, and it ends up being your main business. Yeah. And it helps people. And how about yourself, Amanda? How did you get into this space?
So my story is actually the opposite of Tanya's. So not only was I not an English major, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a biology major. I was like, give me all the science. And it was just impossible. I mean, you show up in college, you're like this young, naive girl thinking like, great, I'm going to take bio and organic chem. And it just ran me over. And I loved science, and I loved, at the time I was really getting into my own journey of healthy eating. So I had to switch gears kind of midway through college and decided I wanted to become a dietitian. Over the summer between, I believe it was my junior and senior year, I did my internship at Effector, which really solidified, my love for the field and my desire to eventually work with Tanya, which, we stayed in touch over the years. My journey took a little bit of a different route for a while. I was a clinical dietitian on a medical surgical floor in the Bronx. So that was a very different experience, and I'm so grateful for it because it gave me so much of my knowledge and so much of the experience that I then brought with me to Effector. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, I need to get out of the hospital, get me to private practice. And that was how I ended up back at Effector.
And you just recently got married, right?
I did.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
How did you use the Effector diet to help you get, in shape for your wedding?
I think the question is, how didn't I use Effector? Having already, so when I joined the practice, it was actually coming after some health issues for me personally that had put a few extra pounds on me. That I would say for a few years, I had to kind of just, tough it out and wait until I was healthy enough to lose. Just like thyroid stuff, lots of the same things that a lot of people go through, and probably people that are watching right now are going through and have been through. And so I had already lost a good amount of weight when I started. And I was at a very healthy weight, and it wasn't necessarily for my wedding about losing so much weight as it was just feeling my best, making sure I wasn't going to feel bloated in my very tight dress, making sure that I felt strong, that I felt, empowered to show up on my wedding day and just feel amazing. And that is exactly what Effector does. So I got back into, maybe a stricter way of eating than I had for the months prior. I got into an exercise routine, and like Tanya said, it was not anything intense. I had people asking me, are you working out every day? And I said, absolutely not. I couldn't handle that. And I will say that I've never felt happier or more beautiful than I did on my wedding day. And it really is thanks to this program.
And I can add to that. I was at her wedding and I agree. She has never looked more beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Tan.
Yeah.
So what does that take, Tanya? What is that prescription of like an Effector diet so that a bride can look great before her wedding? How long should she start before the wedding? Like what should she be eating, not eating? I know that's a loaded question.
No. So, when you ask, like, when should she begin? The day she learns about Effector, whether she's getting married or not, because we really take pride in that. We don't look at Effector as a short-term solution for like one day goal. Like, I don't want you eating the Effector way to look good on your wedding day and then reverting back to poor dietary habits, because it's actually antithetical to everything Effector stands for. Amanda and I took, what we thought would be 1 minute, but a few minutes to explain our clinical background. And the reason we sort of drone on about that is because it really speaks to the safety of Effector as a program. This is not a program that's created by certified nutrition specialists. This is a program that's created by registered dietitians who have worked in hospitals. And therefore, Effector, first and foremost, is a healthy way of eating that increases your chances for longevity. It begins and ends there. The weight loss that occurs is a really amazing byproduct. With that being said, if you're just dating someone, you should be an Effector. If you're engaged, you should be an Effector. If you're getting married, you should be an Effector. If you're pregnant, you should be on a modified version of Effector. After your baby, to get your body back. I've been an Effector for 20 years through all my life cycles, and I will be an Effector for the rest of my life. So what you really mean is, like, when should they get started? Immediately. Because it's about looking, feeling your best. And if it is for weight loss alone, why not get there sooner and then spend the last few months, that are left before the wedding, maintaining that weight, and then focusing that energy on all the other details that are still left to focus on, whether it's the flowers or the band. But begin as soon as you can. It's like, why wait till tomorrow to start looking and feeling your best? Life is short. Right. So it's not when should she begin, it's immediately. Because this is about, Effector to me, my message is about being the best you can be, looking your best and feeling your best. And why wait for a certain start date? I want that to start now. So that's what I would say. And what they can expect, though, because I'm sure, like, you're asking, well, how much can someone expect to lose? In the first month, the average weight loss for our clients is 6 to 8 pounds. That's on average in 4 weeks. And then after that, it slows down to 1 to 2 pounds every week thereafter. And that's why I would say start as soon as possible so you can reach your goal weight as soon as possible, and then have the joy of maintaining it until the wedding day.
So what day one, what does that look like? What should somebody cut out? What should somebody, bring on? Like, I know fiber, obviously, but what exactly does that look like for a layman person that has no idea?
I'll start that question, Amanda. I'll let you finish it. But what I will start to say is every single diet in the world works, Tatiana, because it creates what we call a caloric deficit. The laws of thermodynamics dictate that when you eat fewer calories than your body burns, you'll lose weight. And that's why all diets in theory work. But you have to ask yourself, can I eat this way for the rest of my life? Is this sustainable? So it may work, but will it work permanently? With that being said, all those diets do work, even temporarily, because they're creating a caloric deficit through omission. They're cutting something out: alcohol, carbs, dinner, breakfast, because it's intermittent fasting. They're cutting out dining out. They're cutting out sugar, gluten, dairy, something. Effector is different. Our philosophy is we create a caloric deficit, not through omission, but through addition. By adding fiber into your diet, you are going to displace all of those refined carbohydrates that don't keep you full, all those refined carbohydrates that easily get converted into fat. Fiber also keeps you full for hours. It revs up your metabolism, and it binds with fat and calories and other foods and ushers it out of your body. And despite the myth that fiber bloats you, and that's not a complete myth, at the beginning, if you introduce too much of it too quickly, you will be bloated. But the truth is, once your body adopts a high fiber diet and you're accustomed to it and you're drinking enough water, you will have the best duties of your life. Isn't that a big clinical word, duties? And you will have the flattest stomach of your life. Because when you're constipated is actually when you're the most distended and bloated. When you evacuate properly, your stomach is flat as a pancake. You know that after a good evacuation, you're like, whew, You feel light on your feet, your stomach's flat.
So true.
On your wedding day, ladies, especially if you have a tight wedding dress, you want to make sure you had proper evacuation the night before. Now, as far as the nature of Effector, the combination of fiber and protein and what that looks like, I'm going to throw that over to Amanda, and I'll let you answer the question and share with people what a typical day in Effector looks like. And I think it also helps to explain what is fiber and what is protein. Because at Effector, we have a saying, fiber and protein at every meal makes losing weight
no big deal.
No big deal.
I love that.
Let's teach the audience, Amanda, what's fiber and what does it do, and what's protein and what does it do?
Absolutely.
And why they're a power couple.
They are indeed a power couple. They are the powerhouse of Effector. So I actually mentioned this in a live that I did earlier today. You know, we grow up learning about the 3 macronutrients, right? Fat, protein, and carb. But really, fiber is the key that makes all of those things work together. And unfortunately, it's not something we're really educated on from an early age, even though children as young as 1 year old need almost as much fiber as a 30-year-old, which is absolutely insane. So fiber is the portion of that carbohydrate, and actually some fats like nuts and avocado, they do contain fiber as well. Fiber is indigestible. So fiber is the portion of that carbohydrate that you're eating that is actually going to pass right through your body, which is why, as Tanya mentioned, it can help improve digestion and evacuation, debloat you, et cetera, et cetera. So fiber, because it's indigestible, you actually don't absorb the calories or carbohydrates from it. So as Tanya alluded to, it can actually help to decrease your overall caloric intake by replacing some of those refined carbohydrates you might be eating that don't have any fiber. Now, fiber also swells in your digestive tract, so it keeps you feeling fuller for longer. It prevents blood sugar swings, which also, when you crash, you feel tired and cranky, and you also feel hungry again. The other reason why when fiber and protein are paired together, you know, that's the optimal combination, is because it really is the greatest combination for fullness. So protein, you know, we all know, you know, chicken is protein, meat is protein, but what is it really doing for us? Protein is what helps to fuel our muscles. So the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is. And this isn't just when you exercise. This is at rest, just sitting here, burning calories. You will burn more calories at rest with more muscle. So protein helps to fuel those muscles. And we also store carbohydrates in our muscles. We have storage tanks, you can imagine, within your muscle. So the more muscle you have, the greater capacity you have to store carbs. And this is all going to come full circle when you think about diets or lifestyles being truly sustainable. You know, Tanya mentioned any diet that creates a caloric deficit is going to work temporarily. But if you can't go out and enjoy your favorite bowl of pasta every once in a while, or indulge in something every once in a while without gaining weight, how's that going to be sustainable? The more room we have in our muscles to store carbohydrates, the more carbohydrates you can enjoy without gaining weight back. So when it comes to something like preparing for a wedding, you know, when I was preparing for my wedding, I was still seeing clients in private practice, and I was my own client because I wanted to look my best for my wedding. And you have things like your tasting, right? Where you're tasting a bunch of different foods, or you go on your bachelorette party and you want to indulge in a dessert, or, you know, all of those things. You can be confident, and of course cocktails, but cocktails are included from day one.
You know, if I'm thinking bachelorette party in specific.
I know. But you want
lots of cocktails.
You want to be sure, right, that if you indulge in those things, it's not going to set you back. And that's what having that room for carbohydrates in your muscle does. And that's thanks to protein.
So what tangible things for a takeaway for what can couples eat, what can't they eat? Like what causes the weight, you know, to stay? And what are typical fiber foods that are amazing, easy, that will cause it to fall?
Sure. So Amanda really, as I said, intelligently explains sort of the science of what fiber does. It revs up metabolism. It keeps you full for hours. It actually binds with fat and calories and other foods and ushers it out of the body. Protein contains the essential amino acids necessary for repairing muscle and building muscle, so you have a place to store your carbs. Therefore, when we think about fiber and protein, it's those combinations. Where can you find fiber? Fiber is found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes. Protein is beef, pork, lamb, veal, fish, shellfish, eggs, cheese, tofu, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. So there's a lot of foods to choose from. So some examples of combining fiber and protein, because if we go back to that theory, now that we know what is fiber, what's protein, how does it work? As you said, okay, now we need the practical stuff. How do we apply this? What does a typical day of Effector look like? I would say for breakfast, you can have eggs with whole wheat toast, or if you're familiar with Gigi crackers, swap them for that, which is even lower carb, higher fiber. But a protein, you can have an omelet to scrambled eggs with a high fiber toast or high fiber cracker. You could take a high fiber cereal like Fiber One or All Brand, pair it with a protein such as Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Make a parfait. You could add some fruit to it. You absolutely get fruit on Effector. High fiber fruit includes raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, kiwi, pears, apples are good sources. Exactly. Lots of good sources. Another way of getting fiber and protein is you can have an Effector smoothie. Tatiana, you and I are friends. We can be transparent about that. And when I've been in private practice for 20 years as a registered dietitian using products in the marketplace. And I really saw a void because my clients were asking me for a protein powder with fiber. One did not exist. So I didn't want to just create a fiber powder. I wanted a fiber protein powder because I understood that those two nutrients work the best together to provide fullness and the nutrients necessary for weight management, because the protein is essential to make sure you don't lose muscle because it will slow down your metabolism. So with the Effector protein powder, you could have a smoothie, or you can make waffles or pancakes. So those are such easy ways for people to combine fiber and protein from day one. At lunch, I try and have a salad every day with a protein. That's my fibers and the vegetables. The protein can be grilled shrimp, grilled salmon, grilled tuna, chicken. If you like to eat red meat, you could have steak. If you're vegetarian or vegan, you could have tofu or seitan as your protein. If depending on how active you are, what step you are on Effector, you could have a whole wheat wrap, have a sandwich, or use whole wheat bread. I mean, so you could have a sandwich, you could have, there are many soups. I mean, it's lunch, but it's knowing how to identify combos of fiber and protein for an afternoon snack, because at Effector, that snack is probably one of the most important meals because it offsets your hunger at dinner. Snack is also a combination of fiber and protein. You could have some veggies with hummus. You could have an Effector smoothie, an Effector bar. If you want something that's convenient and easy to take with you, you also can pair apples with nuts, but it's understanding what's a fiber, what's a protein. If you have the Effector diet book, we have all this laid out for you. We give you all the combinations of fiber and protein because there are so many ways of getting those two nutrients in a really delicious way. And then dinner, I always say start off with a broth-based soup or salad that will help to fill you up. And then follow it with, for women, 3 to 4 ounces of protein plus vegetables. Vegetables on Effector, non-starchy vegetables, are a free food. You can eat as many vegetables as you want because they are packed with antioxidants, vitamins, nutrients, water, and of course, fiber. So Effector does have a very defined formula that is guaranteed to work. So I'm always happy to give like ideas of like a day in Effector. I may end up giving you one day and you're like, but I didn't like half the things she mentioned. I'm like, no, I know. That's why, if I said chicken at lunch, like, but I don't like chicken. I'm like, no, it's any protein. But then if you're not familiar with what's a protein, open up the book. We list every protein in the world. We list every source of fiber. And it's almost like a Chinese menu. You get to say, I'll have column A plus column B. And you get to really design Effector to fit your lifestyle, your food preferences. You can avoid food aversions or allergies. We have a gluten-free version of Effector. We have a vegan version of Effector. So we have a kosher version. So no matter what your dietary restrictions are or your preferences, Effector is simply a philosophy of combining fiber and protein to manage your weight without hunger and improve your health.
So a whole bunch of questions just came in. One is, and you had mentioned something very important, which is portion control or portion size. I know you've always said to me when we're out to dinner, the palm of your hand. If it's more than the palm of your hand, you're eating too much as far as protein goes. I just wanted to elaborate on that because everybody's asking about that.
So guys, in the United States, we overeat protein. And it's because of the recent popularity of low carb diets. So when you take out carbs like pasta, rice, bread, and you're hungry, you're gonna eat twice the chicken, twice the steak. The problem is, number one, too much protein is actually not good for us. Number two, your body has to excrete it. There's only so much protein you can absorb per meal anyway. And that's why there have been some studies that have found that it can tax your kidneys. So that's why like there's only so much we could absorb. So overeating protein is just actually leading to an excess caloric intake because you're not even getting the benefits of what protein can do if you're overusing it. Does that make sense? So all you're doing is getting excess calories. So when you understand someone's protein needs, and it varies from person to person because it has to do with your size and it has to do with your activity factor and often your sex too, because men are more muscular than women. And so there's many factors that contribute to how much protein you need. And for anyone watching, if you want to know how much protein you need, you could just Google a protein calculator and you put in your anthropometrics, which includes your height, your weight, your age, your sex, and sometimes your activity factor. And it will compute for you how much protein you need. I've done this for clients for over 20 years. So I know on average women typically need anywhere from 50 to 80 grams of protein, a little bit more if they're athletes. Effector ensures you're getting just that. On Effector, if you're getting 20 grams of protein per meal, you're gonna get around 80 grams of protein, which is more than what we need. Believe it or not, that 80 grams is anywhere from 50 to 80% less, sometimes 100% less than what people are eating. People are eating 2 to 3 times that. I probably did the math wrong. What I'm trying to say is that most people are eating 2 to 3 times that amount, and we don't need it, and we can't even use it. And all those extra calories lead to weight gain. So when you go out to dinner, understand the standard restaurant portion is 8 to 12 ounces of protein. When you get a bronzino and you're like, it's just fish, you don't need 12 ounces. I will share a fish with someone if it's 2 pieces of bronzino and still eat half of mine, which is 3 to 4 ounces. So a good rule of thumb is the size of your hand, a deck of cards, or I just say eat half because the law of averages will make that work out. So for example, if you have shrimp 3 times this week and the first restaurant gives you 8, eat 4. The next restaurant gives you 6, eat 3. The next restaurant gives you 10, eat 5. The law of averages mean that over time, you'll be getting around half. Another recommendation I have for understanding portions of protein, for around $15 on Amazon, you can buy a home scale. And I say this to all my clients, invest in it. I've even seen them on sale on Amazon for $8, $10. Get a home scale and for a week or 2, weigh your protein. And this is not to make you neurotic, it's to educate you. Because after you weigh your chicken or your fish or your steak for a week, now you'll be able to eyeball that when you're at a restaurant. It's not that I want you to carry this home scale with you and pull it out when you're at Bilbo K and put the fish on it. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you can see something at home privately and get a better understanding of it, you now have a tool to properly assess the proper portion of protein when you're out. Or you, as you said, just look at the palm of your hand if that works better too. But guys, overeating protein. I don't care if it's tuna tartare. I don't care if it's grilled shrimp. But people say, but it's just shrimp. I don't care what protein it is. Of course, more fattening protein has more calories per ounce. Steak is more fattening than shrimp, but it's still calories. And extra calories in excess of what your body needs, whether it's coming from protein, fat, or carbs, will still be converted into body fat. Protein, despite what low carb diets have taught you, is not a free food. Effector gives you ample protein, but it doesn't give you too much protein.
Well, and I think, portion size is a big thing that a lot of people don't think about, necessarily. And when you go to restaurants, almost always the portions are humongous. I know when Brad and I go out, we normally split an appetizer, we split an entree,
That's right.
and we split a dessert,
It's correct. Yeah.
Restaurants don't love us, but that's how we eat because otherwise, and then of course you feel so much fuller. You lack energy afterwards.
And you know what? It's funny because Anthony and I have had that discussion too, because we dine out frequently and we often share an entree and we feel so cheap. We feel like the waiter's like, you're sharing an entree. And I always say to Anthony, and he's probably annoyed because their tip is based on the total bill. So I said to Anthony, just tip more then. It's like, we say or when people say like, or sometimes every now and then if we're with couples, we'll just get our own entrees. And then like, if I eat half, he eats half, I'm like, then you guys, everyone's like, that's so wasteful. Then I'm like, then take it home. And you're actually stretching your dollar. You're getting 2 meals for the price of one. Right. So I'm not suggesting to be wasteful, but you also don't need to just overeat because you're being overserved, because I call this portion distortion. We have become so accustomed to these jumbo portions. They have now translated into our homes. We're over-serving at dinner parties. We're over-serving to ourselves because we are so used to these jumbo portions. Back in the day when, when airplanes served meals, and yes, I know first class still does, but back in coach now, it's that basket of, chips and stuff, or the snack boxes. But back in the day when everyone got meals, do you remember the piece of a chicken? It was so small. You guys, that's 3 ounces. That's actually appropriate. And you go out to dinner, if you were served that, you'd be annoyed.
You think you're getting gypped.
That's why the all-you-can-eat buffets, the lines go out the door, and Nouvelle Cuisine failed in this country. Because people went out to dinner, they received 4 ounces of salmon with 5 asparagus spears, they were charged $80, and their husbands left hungry and pissed off. And Nouvelle Cuisine did not work in the United States because our culture is we prefer quantity over quality. Not everyone, I don't want people getting their backs up, but for many, for the masses. And that's why supersize me as a culture has worked in this country. And that's why bigger is better is the feeling people want value for their dollar. But I always say when we talk about more value, right? It's like the bigger the serving, it's also more calories. So we need to ask ourselves, what's the price are we paying for this perception of getting more value?
Now, when you go to dinner, so 2 questions that just came in. Do you eat the bread?
It depends. It depends on what part of my journey I'm on. Am I trying to look good for my wedding on Saturday, or am I in maintenance on Effector? Or is the bread that damn good because it's a French restaurant and it's warm from the oven and it's also served with a good French butter? So
one thing I know about Tanya and myself is that we both love a good baguette with butter.
Love a baguette with butter.
Me too.
So, Tatiana, you've been out to me the Bill Bouquet many times, which has the best baguette. So I will eat bread and butter where it's amazing. And for me, I call that a mindful indulgence. It's worth it. But will I go to an Italian restaurant, which has like stale Italian bread? And no, that's uninteresting to me. So I think it's a very personal decision, but of course I eat bread. I also eat pasta. I also eat rice, but it depends on what part of the Effector journey are you on. Are you in step 1, trying to burn fat for fuel? If you're trying to burn fat for fuel, bread is a carbohydrate which gets converted into fuel. And when you're fueling your body with carbs, you don't burn fat. And that's why athletes carbo load. Everything that we talk about at Effector is based on science. Everything is science. So guys, carbs are not bad for you. Okay, you should not be omitting carbs. Carbs fuel everything in your body, from your central nervous system, which includes blinking and thinking, to digestion, to defecation, to your activities, which is voluntary, talking with your hands, going for a walk. Without carbs, you feel weak, tired, shaky, cranky. And without carbs, you're missing out on many food groups. You're not eating fruit. You're not eating grains. You're not eating pasta. I mean, can you imagine going to Italy and not having pasta, or going to France and not having a croissant or a French baguette? So to cut out carbs for weight loss is also ridiculous. Because when you look at cultures who have always eaten carbs, such as in Asia where they eat rice every day, or in Italy where they eat pasta every day, or in France where they eat croissants and baguettes almost daily, they don't have the incidence of obesity that we do in this country. So why the hell are we blaming carbs? But you need to understand that carbs eaten in excess of what your body's going to use will be converted into fat. So there's a formula. The good news for you guys is Effector has figured out that formula, because although I know nothing about politics or foreign policy, what I do know is nutrition and science. And I've dedicated 20 years of my life to taking what I've learned and sharing it with all of you in layman's terms. It's the one topic I can go really deep on. Don't ask me anything about art history or anything else. But this is the one thing I know, guys. I know how to help you to lose weight without hunger, without compromising your lifestyle. You're going to dine out, drink alcohol, live your life to the fullest on Effector. And it is about eating carbs mindfully. The more fiber in a carb, the fewer net carbs, your body will burn fat. But yes, I do eat carbs and I enjoy every frickin' bite. But if you're trying to lose weight, you want to cut back on the refined carbs, replace them with high fiber carbs so you're getting a feeling of carbs, but you are still burning fat for fuel. The beauty of Tatiana, and you know this because we're intimate, the beauty of the Effector products is I've been now able to eat Effector waffles and Effector pancakes and Effector biscuits and Effector cookies and Effector muffins that seem like the most fattening carbs in the world, and yet they have almost no carb. And that's because they're made with fiber and protein.
I will never forget, right after I had my second child, you and I had dinner. We were going to theater, and we had dinner right before the theater. And it was at Serafina, actually. And I was looking at the menu, and I wanted to order pasta. And I looked at you, and I was like, should I order this? And you said to me something that stuck with me for life. And you said, do you want to lose or do you want to maintain?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to lose. And then you said no.
Yeah. Because it's a personal choice. And that's for everyone to understand. I am not here to change the way that you're eating as something that's a punitive experience. But you need to understand that weight loss is a formula. And carbohydrates are fuel. It doesn't mean that they're bad for you. They're amazing for you. And God knows they're so delicious. But if you're eating a lot of carbs, you're giving your body its preferred fuel source, and your body won't burn fat.
Right.
So when you take the emotion out of it and you just make it like a mathematical equation, it shouldn't feel like you're compromising so much. Like, okay, I would love the pasta, but everything in life worth having comes with a little bit of sacrifice. If your perception is what you're getting out of it outweighs what you're giving up in the moment, then that's the right journey for you. So of course the pasta is delicious. And I'd rather get pasta 9 out of 10 times than the grilled fish. But if what I'm getting out of it is looking and feeling my best, feeling good in my clothing, having confidence, well then every now and then it's worth the swap for me. And that's why I made it up to you. Well, what's your goal? And let's honor your goals. But you can't have goals and then not support them with action.
Totally.
That to me is completely illogical. Don't tell me you want to lose weight, but you want the pasta more. Because all you're saying to me is you want the pasta more than you want to lose weight. And that's okay. I'm not judging that. But if you want to lose weight more than anything, then you need to understand the pasta is not going to help in that moment. The good news about Effector is that you could always have a mindful indulgence. It just means that day you're not going to lose weight, but the next day you might start losing weight. Or maybe you're just on step 1 for 2 weeks and then you move to step 2, which allows pasta, encourages pasta even. So it's just based on what part of your journey are you at.
Someone just asked about calories and calorie counting, and just, can you touch upon that whole world? Because some people are obsessed with it. There are lots of diets that are just, calorie counting diets. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, Amanda, I'm going to let you answer that because there was another question I saw pop up that asked about fats. So I think
I can definitely tie those in.
Right punch, left undercut with that. We can answer 2 questions at once, because I think that's where people get concerned about Effector. Is it ultimately a low calorie diet? And as I said, of course it is. All diets have to be low in calories. But because of fiber, you have no idea it's low calories. And I have 2 Belgian waffles. I don't realize that's low calorie. I thought that was 1,000 calories. And then, of course, the role that fat plays. So take it away.
Absolutely. So on Effector, no matter what step of the plan you're following, and Tanya just mentioned the steps are basically, weight loss, continued weight loss, and maintenance. You will never count calories throughout any part of your journey. You will count carbs and you will count fiber. And what that does is it gives you your overall net carb, which is the amount of carbohydrates that your body is digesting and absorbing. Like Tanya said, that'll help you burn fat for fuel, or it'll help you maintain. The reason why calorie counting isn't necessarily sustainable is that calorie counting doesn't tell you what the quality of your calories are. So let's say you want to, lose weight and create a caloric deficit, but you're not eating enough of the foods that are going to fill you up. You could subsist on 1,200 calories of, ding dongs or muffins. Is that going to keep you full enough to sustain that caloric deficit? And the answer usually is no. So it's not necessarily about the calories, but about the quality of those calories. And what fiber does is it helps to create that caloric deficit without hunger. And that is really the hallmark of Effector, is that, like Tanya said, you eat your breakfast, you're not concerned with how many calories it is because you feel full. And when you feel full, you are much less likely to overeat at the end of the day because you're full, you're satisfied. Satisfaction is a huge part of successful weight loss. And when it comes to things like fat, and Tanya, I don't know if you have anything you want to add there.
Well, what I will, thank you, Amanda. It was really well explained. Of course, I want to continue to stress calories do matter. We are not suggesting they don't. What Amanda's saying, it's also the quality of those calories, because you can go low calorie and not have nutrients. But if you go too low calorie also, you can slow down your metabolism.
Yes.
And that's why people plateau. We know all these things. So number one, of course, we need to create a caloric deficit. Effector has to be low in calories. And I've done the math for you. Effector is a formula, guys. This is not freestyling. You don't just say, I'm going to eat Effector and do it your way. I have a way for you that's defined. And there's a calorie cap. So I don't make you count calories because it's built in. There's a ceiling because we monitor your portions of protein. We monitor your portions of fat, meaning we give you recommendations for those guidelines. And then we explain about fiber, which has no calories. So while you're not counting calories, I have counted the calories for you, and the calories are low enough that you'll lose weight. Unlike other low-calorie diets where people ultimately plateau because their body goes into self-preservation mode, with Effector, the fiber revs up the metabolism despite the caloric deficit because fiber has a thermogenic effect. So while people are caught up on calories, it makes sense to me because at the end of the day, it's the only way that weight loss happens. It's calories in, calories out. So I'm not going to discredit that, but I want people to have more knowledge than that and understanding that if you go too low calorie without fiber, you will slow your metabolism down and you will plateau. If you go low calorie with fiber, you will continue to lose weight and you will rev up your metabolism and you will feel full throughout the journey while eating very nutrient dense foods. But the reason on Effector, the user doesn't count calories is because Tanya Zuckerbrot, the creator, did the hard work for you. And I made sure that the program has enough calories that you feel energy, but it's low enough calories and low enough in net carb to ensure that your body burns fat for fuel every day.
What is the proper, if somebody were to say, you know, this is what a typical caloric day should look like? Is it 1,800 calories? Is it 2,500 calories? What should it be?
I would say for most women, because we have a machine that measures people's basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories people burn a day. For most women, it's probably between 12 and 1,400 calories. That's with that activity factor.
Okay.
It's not, that's why like this, I remember-
It's lower than you think.
Yeah, I remember one Shape
Shape
magazine asked me to create a slim down for summer program. Like they wanted Tanya Zuckerbrot to design a 1-week plan for Shape magazine for people to slim down for the summer. So I was taking all the notes. I was on the phone with the editor. I was like, no problem. And I said, how many calories do you want each day to add up to? And I think she said like 1,800, 2,000. And I said, what? Because I know at Effector where step 1 is, and I know where step 2 is. I was like, and I said, are you sure? I said, that's a lot of calories. And then she said, well, our readers are very active. And I'm thinking, no one's that active. And this is the struggle with weight management. We have been encouraged to think we need more calories. And Effector, our knowledge of basal metabolic rate, which is, or your resting metabolic rate, is what allows us to know that our step 1 is so sound. It's because we know what the average body needs. Now look, it does differ from person to person based on your height, your weight, your sex, and your activity factor. Someone who is very tall, very muscular, and very active needs a lot more calories than someone who's very small and very inactive. So of course, calories different, the same way that all nutrient needs different, whether it's fat, protein, or carbs, because it's based on the size of the body and how fast your body's burning. You know, like Michael Phelps eats like 10,000 calories a day when he's training and he's shredded. He's burning every single calorie. But if you are someone that barely moves and you're really small and you don't have a lot of muscle, you don't need that many calories. So understand that while Effector is a general program for the mass population, we can always tailor it to meet your specific needs when you become a client. But the book does work for the general population, prescribing the formula for weight loss, including calories, protein, fats, carbs, fiber.
You touched a minute about exercise. Now, I know, you know, that you say that you can exercise all you want, but the truth is you will never really lose the weight that you want just with exercise alone. Can you touch upon that?
Sure. Favorite topic. I am pro-exercise. I want to begin my statement by saying I do not have an anti-exercise platform. I believe in exercise. I wrote a book and there was a chapter called F the Gym, and people thought I meant like you don't have to go to the gym. And what I was saying is you don't need a gym. You can exercise even in your own home. And I think during COVID, we've all seen that, thanks to now working out virtually. But the point is, even if we didn't have great people to follow, you know, on the computer or on your phone, you still have your own body weight. You can do push-ups, you can do sit-ups, you can do wall sits, you can do planks, you can go for a hike, you can go swimming. All of that is activity. My point is our reliance on the gym, on all this cardio, has not produced a thinner nation. Tatiana, did you know that in our country, in the United States, we have more gyms than any nation in the world?
Had no idea.
Did you also know we're the fattest nation in the world?
That I knew.
Okay, so our reliance on working out clearly has not produced a thinner nation.
Clearly.
Has not resolved this epidemic of obesity. And that's because we've been over-encouraged to believe that cardio is a solution. People are spinning every day. People are running every day. They're on the elliptical, they're on the bike. The problem with cardio is it only burns calories during the activity. And then when you're done with the activity, cardio stimulates your appetite, so you're ravenous the rest of the day. It makes no sense. If you take a few hours a week instead to do a weight resistance activity, you will burn calories while working out. And now that you have added additional muscle mass to your body is more catabolically active throughout the day. Your body will burn more calories at rest, which is not only important for increasing your ability to eat calories without weight gain, but the more muscle you have, the more carbs you're allowed to eat because carbs are stored in your muscle. So the bigger your tank becomes. And you also look damn good because muscle makes you look lean and strong instead of skinny flabby. And also a complete health benefit, nothing to do with weight management, is that it gives you strong bones. So muscle mass is correlated with reducing the risk for osteoporosis. So it'll give your bones more density. So with that being said, what's a weight resistant activity and how often should you do it? And by the way, guys, this comes from a girl that would define herself as a runner. I ran 6 to 7 days a week in my 20s because I had inserted cardio into my weight management equation. I thought I had to run so I wouldn't get fat, or I had to run to offset anything I ate. And now, guys, I work out maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I am leaner and stronger in my 40s than I was in my 20s when I was working out 7 days a week. I stand by that. And it's because of the science. All the cardio was not building muscle. It was just burning during the activity. I can burn calories during the activity of a weight resistant activity because when I'm lifting weights or doing Isaac Boots or Melissa Wood or whatever workout you're doing, you're sweating. It's hard. You're burning calories. The difference is now that I'm done with that exercise, I've added muscle mass and now my body's burning more calories throughout the day because the more muscular you are, the higher your basal metabolic rate. The higher your body burns calories even at rest. So what's a weight resistant activity? It's a bar class. It's swimming, it's hiking, it's boxing, it's rowing, it's yoga, it's
Pilates.
What else? It's hiking, it's sprinting versus long distance runs are night and day. Sprinting is bursts of energy. And it's lifting weights. It's anything that builds muscle, guys. And that's what you should focus on 2 to 3 days a week. And it's one of the most liberating premises. And at Effector, we have another really strong statement, which is we really educate our followers to learn to manage their weight through their intake and not their output. Because God forbid you are relying on exercise for weight management and you get into an accident, a ski accident, or you trip and you break your leg. What are you going to do? Gain weight now? No, because your weight should never be reliant on your activity factor. The activity factor should be there to keep you lean and strong and to release endorphins and all the other great stuff. So I never want people relying on exercise for weight management. And for the people I see who do, sometimes it's effective, but then they're working out a lot and not eating that much to begin with. But we all know people that work out every day and they still don't have the bodies that you would think they should. Like, that doesn't make sense. Something's not right there. And I've seen these people because I socialize with many of them. And it's because at dinner, they're eating bowls of quinoa. I'm like, because you're not doing this right. Like, you're just basically fueling your spin tomorrow. Like, you're not emptying out your glycogen stores. You're not burning fat for fuel. You're creating this cycle of doing cardio, eating carbs, doing cardio. And all you're doing is burning off the carbs. You're never getting to your fat stores. So if you buy the Effector book, there's an entire chapter on exercise. We teach you how to exercise intelligently with results. And it's the most liberating thing in the world. You will thank me. That information is just as important as fiber and protein.
I think that that's absolutely true, because for the longest, I'm a runner too. For the longest time, I'd be running and I was trying to lose weight, and I would run like a fiend, an hour a day, 5-6 days a week. And I'd always be like making time for exercise, and I never changed my body. And it wasn't until I started yoga that my body changed.
Yeah.
You know, and then I run now just to relieve stress.
Correct. And that's why we say,
Absolutely.
guys, it's not that you shouldn't do cardio, but you should do cardio for every reason in the world other than getting thin. Do cardio because it releases endorphins. Do cardio because it feels good. Do cardio because you enjoy it. Maybe because it's social. Or maybe for you, it's the 1 hour you get out of the house and you are alone. You get to leave everything behind. Whatever the reason is for doing cardio, I'm not suggesting not to do it. Just don't insert it into your weight management equation, because it doesn't belong there. It will fail you.
And I think on the other hand, oh, sorry, Tatiana, on the other side of the coin, if you hate it like I did, and you were doing it because you thought that it was so beneficial for weight loss, then don't force yourself to do it, because that was so liberating for me, learning that I could do other activities aside from run, because I'm not a natural runner. I would go for runs with my husband and his legs are double the size of mine, and he'd always be in front of me and I'd be so miserable and staring at his back. And finally I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, because I know it's not serving me. And that was such a liberating thing, especially getting ready for a wedding.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with her. I think, as you said, it's a great point, especially for brides who are trying to like cram everything in. It's like, and they feel they have to cram this, you know, the exercise in. Guys, exercise doesn't do for you what it thinks it does for you. I mean, yes, the weight resistant activity is so important for building muscle, so you're not a flabby bride, but the cardio is not what's going to help you to lose the weight. It's what you're eating. And let Effector be your cardio. It's like a line I say all the time. Let Effector be your cardio, and the gym is what makes you lean and strong.
And so a lot of brides are struggling right now during COVID, you know, stress eating. What do you tell your clients? How do you help them get through this?
I'll let you handle that one, Amanda.
Something that I actually learned from Tanya, which is something that a very wise thing that I think she inspires us all with when it comes to managing stress, and, you know, what are the things we can control and what are the things we can't control. And we cannot control what's happening out in the world. We cannot control our some of our current circumstances. I can't imagine the stress that brides are under right now. If my wedding had been any later, I would have been in exactly the same situation. And that, unfortunately, is something that we can't control. But what can we control? We can control how we fuel our bodies. We can control what we put into our mouths, and knowing that it's going to make us feel better or worse. And so reframing the situation as to what can I control, and my weight, my diet, how I empower my body and fuel my body. Those are the things that I can control. I think putting that in perspective is hugely important. And a lot of what threw people off right now is the lack of routine. So recreating a routine, it's going to look different than it did before, but recreating a routine for yourself is an incredible way to get yourself back on a track where you feel good, where you are, you know, right now, a lot of us are in our homes or we're in our apartments. You're now basically living in your kitchen. I'm working essentially in my kitchen right now. It's easy to grab food because it's there. But if you create a routine, you have your set meal times, you have your set work times, it makes it a lot easier to stick to a plan and really reach your goals.
Yeah.
And your set snack times, right? As Tanya said.
Of course, we don't miss snacks.
That's critical.
We never miss snacks.
I look forward to the snacks.
Or cocktail hour, by the way. Is it that time yet?
Well, actually, let's talk about that for a moment. Cocktails. I know that on an Effector diet, you say that drinking is okay as long as it's in moderation. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Well, Effector is a lifestyle, and meaning it's not a diet you go on and off of. You know, the word diet is really misused. When people hear the word diet, they think restriction, they think caloric deprivation, weight loss, and yet the word diet simply means a pattern of eating. There are vegan diets, there are kosher diets. They have nothing to do with weight loss. It's something that you commit to for a philosophy, and typically for forever, right? If you're kosher, you're not kosher Monday through Fridays, and then the weekends you're eating bacon cheeseburgers. It's something that you subscribe to because you believe in it, and it becomes something that you're committed to forever. I want people to think of Effector as a way of eating that's a lifestyle. And therefore, for many of us, cocktails are a part of a happy lifestyle. We go out with colleagues for drinks after work. We toast with champagne when there's a celebration, right? We drink at parties. To cut that out temporarily for weight loss that we hope is permanent is illogical to me. Because anything you do temporarily leads to temporary results. You cannot create a caloric deficit by taking something out and then you plan on putting it back in and expect that weight loss that was a byproduct of that caloric deficit to remain. Makes no sense. And also, I always like to take an epidemiological approach when I think about nutrition and wellness, and I look at cultures who are healthier than us. And you look at the Mediterranean diet, which is always touted every year as the healthiest diet in the world. You think of Italy and France and in Greece, where they drink wine with lunch and dinner, and they don't have the instance of obesity that we do. But once again, we're blaming alcohol. Alcohol makes you fat. Alcohol doesn't make you any more fat than protein, fats, or carbs. It comes down to your total caloric intake for the day. And once again, guys, Effector's done the work for you, and I've created enough of a ceiling to allow you to drink calories on Effector and still lose weight. So it's not what you're drinking. It's not that you're drinking, it's what you're drinking. If you're using sugary mixers, if you're using tonics and juices, that's a diet disaster because of the carbs and sugars in the mixers. It's a pina colada is 600 calories, but or Long Island tea is 400 calories. But even vodka with cranberry juice could be 150 calories. The vodka itself is 80 calories. All spirits on the rocks, vodka, tequila, bourbon, scotch, whiskey, I'm probably missing one. All spirits have gin, 80 calories per ounce, 0 grams of carbs. 80 calories, a roll with butter at a restaurant is 360 calories. 80 calories for an ounce of vodka or tequila or any spirit. A glass of wine, 3 to 4 ounces, is anywhere from 80 to 120, depending on who's pouring. My pour is a little bit heavy. But my point is, even a 3-ounce glass of wine is 80 calories. So to think that you don't have the room for a glass of wine every day on Effector or a martini is ridiculous, because the calories are just not what people think they are. It's the sugary mixers that really lead to the problems. Now look, guys, the same way I don't have an anti-exercise platform, I'm not encouraging you to start drinking if you don't drink, okay? You do not need to start drinking to do Effector. But if you do enjoy cocktails responsibly, what does responsibly mean? That you're acting appropriately, that, that you're behaving well, that you're not drinking too much, that you are undermining your best life, meaning that you're not making poor decisions when it to say the least, versus like just behaving in a way that you're regretting. My point is, if you're drinking responsibly, maturely, then you absolutely can enjoy 1, 2, 3 cocktails a day on Effector. Not that I'm encouraging people drink every day, but I just want you to understand that alcohol, if you enjoy alcohol responsibly, there is no reason to cut it out for weight management. There just is not. Is alcohol empty calories? Of course. I'm not suggesting there's nutrients in it, such as calcium or protein, but for many of us, alcohol provides us with a quality of life. It's relaxing, it's social, and that's how I want you to use alcohol.
And one last question. Somebody just asked, what's included in the book, and are there any discounts on Effector products for webinar attendees?
Not yet, but we can talk offline about that. We can figure out, we can do something special for you guys. Right now, there's no current promos. I think that's what's unique about Effector, is that we run so few promos. And mostly because when we do it, it really is to punctuate something. We are very fortunate that people recognize the value of these products. So we often don't run promos, but of course we like to whenever we can. So we'll give that some thought. And what is in the Effector diet? Everything. It's all the science, the studies that support the science. It's a program spelled out exactly what you need to do for weight loss. There's step 1 and there's step 2 and there's maintenance. So it gives you all the steps for whatever stage you're at. There's shopping lists. There's over 100 Effector approved recipes. There's guidelines. There's tips. It's everything you need in just one small book. And on Amazon, I think the book is less than $12. And I think you can go to your library and get it for free if that is cost prohibitive. Or I think you can get it used on Amazon for like $1.99. So I'm hoping that everyone can afford to get themselves the book or borrow it from the library, because it has everything you need to get started. And of course, if you're looking for more support, you could work with an Effector dietitian. We've been working with our dietitians virtually, and they can really tailor Effector to meet your needs and your goals, your food preferences and your food aversions, and to honor any clinical conditions that you may have. So there are many ways of doing the Effector diet. You could also join the Effector Facebook group, where you'll get a lot of support from people who are already doing the program. You'll get your questions answered, and you'll also get a feeling of camaraderie. And of course, you can follow me on social media, which is at Tanya Zuckerbrot, or the brand handle, which is at F_Effector. And we also have a website, which is ffactor.com. And I share the Effector because it's a resource for a ton of information. You also can find Effector products there and learn about the dietitians in the private practice. So, you know, I always say, do your own research, be your own healthcare advocate, always research before you buy, and make sure that this is the right fit for you.
Well, we're sadly out of time. I can't thank you both enough for sharing your knowledge and, you know, great information and advice that you've given to all of our brides that are listening. I personally love Effector, and I follow it, and it works. And so I just want you guys to know that if you really are trying to lose weight, look good for your wedding, but also just to change your lifestyle approach to food, the Effector way definitely works. You know, it's not just one of those diets that come in and out, and you know, and then you lose a lot of weight and then you gain it all back. You know, right. And I think that's what I love most about what you created. And I thank you guys so much for joining Tatiana. Us. It was amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.